So the deficits in the balance of payment mainly means that inflow is less and outflow is greater. Okay. So is it good? Is it bad? It really depends. So for example, if I say, okay, so what's the good thing about of deficit? More money is going out. So what could be possibly the good side of that? Well, there's a lot of if situations in that because you can have a deficit in multiple cases. The thing is, if you have a deficit and it is because of large investments in capital goods imported for infrastructure or some sort of industry that you want to start. So, if it's for that, then future potential will rise, right, for a country. So that's not a bad thing. At the moment, you have to take deficit. So, for example, if Pakistan takes IT related, जैसे अभी चल भी रहा है that we want to have digital Pakistan in the coming decade, and we want a lot of things to become digitalized in Pakistan. So what do we do? Well, unfortunately, we have a lot of people who are studying IT related stuff, but we don't have a lot of factories which are making all these equipments IT related. So what do? We import all of these things and the technology. And until we don't start producing it in the country, for now, we can import. A lot of money is going out. That's a problem, but you know that in the future the IT industry will pay it off. So in that case, it's actually an advantage that you're taking a deficit, and hopefully it will repay itself in the future. Number two, if the large deficit is because of consumer imported goods, then living standards is improving. Is improving. That's a high cost, but just say for example, if you don't have enough goods and services like essential goods, wheat, जैसे हम import भी करते हैं wheat हो गया, तो if we're importing wheat which people do not have enough, तो अब क्योंकि बाहर से इंपोर्ट हो रहा है पैसा बाहर जा रहा है, दैट्स अ प्रॉब्लम. बट द एडवांटेज हियर इज दैट वो जो वीट आ रहा है, people can consume that and they can improve their livelihood because initially they did not even have it. uh, और भी समटाइम्स क्या होता है कि ये जब आप बाहर से चीज़ें इंपोर्ट करते हो तो ये डोमेस्टिक मार्केट्स में अपनी अपॉर्चुनिटीज़ क्रिएट करता है. ठीक है. So that will be a third point, that imported goods creates job opportunities. Like for example, globally, China trades about 70% of the smartphones, right? And we are one of the purchasers because we don't make any. So we imported from China pretty much 100%. And then there is an entire market around the mobile phones, right? You have southern markets, you have different areas where markets, a lot of shops, a lot of people employed, then repairing, and all of that. So it creates a lot of job opportunities in the country, which definitely has an effect on our balance of payment. So clearly, we can see that there are some advantages to it. One of the advantages to it can be that deficit leads to a depreciation of currency, depreciation of currency, uh, which can make exports more competitive in international markets. Markets and trade may rise. So that's a possibility, all right? So these are good enough advantages of a deficit that you may be having. Okay, but deficit has a lot of problems in it. Okay, so you have problems of deficit. So more money is going out than coming in. तो पहला तो major problem is that deficit leads to depreciation. Okay, and this depreciation can uh, signal a weak economy. Okay, दूसरा major problem, especially if you are a major importing country, uh, like Pakistan, we import a lot. तो फिर if our currency get weakens, then that's a problem because हमको सारा जो है imported goods and key raw material becomes expensive. And उसकी वजह से you can expect cost push inflation, लोगों के profits चले जाते हैं and all these problems. So deficit leads to depreciation. But let's say that we don't want the currency to depreciate. Okay? So to stop depreciation, we do an open market operations. We sell foreign reserves and buy own currency. इससे क्या होगा? We will be able to stabilize our currency. But when you sell foreign reserves, that's an unfortunate thing because you were supposed to use these reserves for other goods and services. So now you don't have these reserves or you are depleting these reserves. And that's the sad part. Sometimes you may even need to take loans if there are not enough reserves. So if you're taking on more loans, then you have to make more interest payments in future. And that's a bad thing because these just gets piled up on in the future. You keep on taking loans. Like for example, Pakistan is a good example for this situation. That every time we've had deficits, we've been taking loans and trying to stabilize our currency. And over the period of time, we've just taken so much loan from the IMF that now the interest has become a big percentage of our uh, interest payments. तो अब हमने क्या करना है? We need to somehow find ways. So now you have coronavirus. The prime minister is saying, you know what, we need some relief. Loans माफ करें या कुछ इस तरह की situation करें. Why? Because so that we don't have to make so much interest payments. Because interest payments is you giving out money, and so that means less money to buy imported goods or less money to invest. So you have to take that money out from somewhere. अब वो पैसा कहाँ से आएगा? That you have to pay in terms of interest loan. That's probably my tax money. right? और कोई public corporation की जो भी कमाए हुए पैसे थे, you just have to give it out, and you can't do anything with that money. In fact, it could be like कि आप uh, you were, let's suppose, for example, you were exporting goods worth uh, $700 million. You were exporting it, and you were thinking इसके बदले में हम import कर लेंगे 700 million. That's great, you know, and your currency will remain stabilized, export minus import, balancing it off. लेकिन if I have to pay loans worth, let's suppose, 200 million, मुझे interest pay करना है, so I can't buy 700 million worth of goods. Now I'll have to buy only 500 million worth of goods. So you have to export more in order to make the payments and get a little bit of imports. Now, the more this value goes up, the lower the import capability goes. And that's a bad thing. That's called like a debt servicing ratio. The higher the debt servicing, the lower you can import from every dollar worth of exports that you do. And that's awful. That's terrible, in fact. Uh, so that's why you want to be self sustaining. So that's some of the problems. In fact, if you're saying that the government will have to intervene, you know, एक प्रॉब्लम ये भी आ जाती है that if government wants stable currency and do open market operations to stabilize currency, then they may have to forego other economic objectives. And ADAS के अंदर we've done some economic objectives. So what you're saying is that we want to stabilize our currency, we don't want to get weakened, तो उसकी वजह से you do certain policies, and those policies are not always beneficial for your other uh, economic policies, and we're facing that also. We will have a discussion on that later on. So, but for now, plenty of advantages and disadvantages on the deficit ka problem.